All right, good evening, everyone. This is Allison Korchin-Novus, and this webinar is Coaching to the 411 and GPS with Christina Benega. First thing I want to do is just make sure everyone can hear me. If each of you could please type yes into the questions box. Just want to make sure audio is working. I've only gotten a few yeses. I want to make sure it's working all across the board. There we go. All right, thank you, everyone. And Christina, take it away.
All right. Well, hello, MAPS coaches. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. We are going to dive into the 411 and the GPS, and what better time to do that than business planning time. So as we go through, we're also going to have a little guest tonight. We'll do a little interview with Allison in a bit, because last week when we were in Austin, we were able to watch Diana actually do this presentation for the entire KWRI staff. And she interviewed our great staff members on how they use it within their divisions, and I thought we would share some of that with you. So very excited to get us going. All right, so let's go to the next slide, Allison. So, of course, we are in business planning time, and one of the most important things about the GPS and the 411 is clarity is power, which is, of course, our bold law. One of the most important things is to really dive down with our clients. What is their one thing next year? So I took the part 3 of our current business plan, and you guys can go back into the drive and get part 1 and 2. And really just took the ones and highlighted here some of the things that might be important for us to dive down to make sure that when we do the 135, the one is the real, honest one. We talk a lot in coaching about sometimes we've missed the mark on, was that a stated goal or a real goal? So I want to be clear that we really want to dive down with our clients during business time so that when we create the 135 GPS for 2018, we know what the one thing is. That keeps us in the right conversations at the right time with the right people. And that's the power of what we're going to learn how to do deeper tonight. So as I said, this is page 3, and you can see we highlighted here profit net. We are all in it for our clients to have profit, and so that's a beginning conversation as a coach, right? If they've put their goal in here, we know what that is. We know how they plan to get there. We're going to be making a 135 that is so powerful because we'll be clear that this is absolutely what they are committed to, versus building it on something that is a potential goal or a maybe goal. The clarity is power, and I cannot express that enough for us all to look at. Then as we look down on page 3 of the business plan, you'll see here I highlighted the monthly business numbers for 2018. So again, our opportunity is, let's get clear with this. These items are going to translate to the 135 and the 411 in a very powerful way. If we just take their plan and we don't dig deep and make sure this is the real plan, not the stated plan, then we could be building a 411 based on not real numbers. And that's really important, coaches, is that we understand we are hitting goal. As Diana teaches us, we don't change goal. So that's why it's so important that we dive down on the goals that they send us initially and make sure they are committed to hitting that no matter what, just like we are committed to hitting 5,000. And I know you are all working on your recruiting this week for our new great clients, so thank you for that as well. So again, start with this page. Once they've built out the plan, this is a page to dive deep before we go into the 135. And make sure those monthly numbers are there, because obviously in the 411, we're going to start to utilize some of those at a very high level, not just for the people we're coaching. If they are a rainmaker, if they are a leadership person, of course, if we're in leadership, we have a different business plan. all of this is going to translate into their 135s and their 411s. That's the beauty of making this very, very solid, is that if everybody hits their own GPS, then the GPS of the organization or the team or the market center is automatically hit. And I'm just going to say that again. If everybody hits their 135s on the team or the market center, then the goal of the team or market center is automatically hit. When we do that, we have helped them powerfully build a 135 and a 411. So again, this is where we're going to start, and we're going to make sure these numbers are real numbers, not stated. And of course, you can use questions that we learned in our MAPS training at Mega Relief to kind of make sure you're asking the right questions, digging down deeper, and more importantly, interrogating what will happen if we don't hit this, right? And I know we've already done a webinar on business planning, so I'm not going to go into that far. I just want you to always remember what will happen if we don't miss this. If there's really no big situation that's going to happen, we might be working off of a stated goal, not a real goal. So let's really dive here and get clarity. Okay, next page. All right, so of course, when we are having them goal set, we send them our business plan for MAPS, right? And again, we have a leadership one and we have our agent one. And then we also remind them to go in and utilize the tools in KW Connect. So we're constantly aligning their plans to the growth initiative and the career growth initiative. Those are things we constantly want to get in alignment. And if there has been some misalignment, for example, on the career growth initiative, as we've been discussing, we follow the systems and models in KW. So the wonderful thing for us is that we can now utilize a new business planning time to realign them back to the career growth initiative and really use that. And by the way, I'm certain that you all saw in Zoho today that there are some webinars coming up over the next few weeks that are very important to get out to our people. John Davis is doing an incredible one, and of course Gary is doing an incredible almost full day one that was originally going to be at Mega Camp. So please make sure you're getting that out to our people as well. So again, alignment with getting them back from business planning into using our growth tools, and then being able to get those items in alignment and dive into the next one. So let's go to the next one. And one of my favorite things, our bold law, it's not about selling real estate, it's about following a schedule, right? Diana teaches this all the time. And in KW University, they have a course that they teach this as well. So when we're kind of setting the tone, if you will, for our clients of what we're about to embark on the GPS and the 411, this is a great reminder for them. The goal is that we break it down so simply that if they follow the schedule, they hit the goal. And then as coaches, we work with them on ensuring that happens at a very, very high level through using the 411. So again, just framing this for them so that they know this is a powerful, powerful tool. And if you haven't read the one thing deeply or having your clients read it, that also goes in a lot of alignment right now with business planning, GPS, and 411. So lean on our tools. There's a lot of new webinars that have come out about this. Have your clients watch those. Those are great leverage opportunities for you as coaches because, of course, as Ron teaches us, we cannot all carry a bag big enough to know everything. So let's lean on the leverage opportunities we have through all the sources we get available through Keller Williams and MAPS. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, of course, in our Google Drive, we have completing your GPS. And one of the things about a GPS and completing the GPS I just want to dive a little bit into here is that as a coach, this is your opportunity to raise their lid. Okay? We've all done a 135, and we were all kind of not good at it doing it when we first started. we may have clients that aren't really good at it, and maybe we have grown and gotten really great at it, yet in coaching we meet the client where they are. So we're going to come down and make sure that we're not making this feel too simple that it negates the magnitude and power of what it is. And we do that by helping our clients frame and understand this. So again, this tool is actually in our drive. And when you begin to have the conversation about doing the GPS 135 with your clients, my suggestion is that you send them the form that we use. Have them read through it. What did you read that you were surprised at? What did you feel you already had a good handle on? Right? Really get to what do they know about the GPS. A lot of times when we find clients that have been unsuccessful using it, their knowledge around it was actually not deep enough. And I can't express that enough to you, because as coaches, that's our role, is deepening their knowledge on the tools and the systems so they fund their lives, right? And now they have legacies worth leaving. That's what we do. That's the privilege that Diana and the MAPS teams gives to us every single day. And if we aren't taking the deepening of the usage of the tools to the place that it actually causes the goals to get hit, then as a coach, we're missing an opportunity. And more importantly, we're letting our clients down. So I really want you to understand this is a huge opportunity for you to train your people at a deeper level of what this means. And I got to say, you have such an opportunity here, because if our client grows themselves through these systems and tools at a very effective and high level, they will then grow teams or market centers in the same way. And I'm certain we can all relate that we have clients that don't necessarily follow the systems and models, and it affects the scalability of how big their businesses can get. So as a coach, we don't want to be the lid to their scalability. We really want our clients to be able to scale as big and as huge as they want, right? We all know the story of Lance Loken, went from 149 transactions 5 years ago to over 1,200 last year. That's because he was coached in a way on the tools so deep that his scalability can continue to happen. And that's the power that each of us have to make impact on our clients. So one of the best things is to study this deeply, and how can you relate it to every client you have by meeting them where they are. So if you're already coaching someone who understands the power, this might be a little easier. What about when they bring on a team member who doesn't quite understand it? Will the client be able to convey to the team members in such a powerful way that they get it sooner than our client got it? That's how we create leverage, right? It's we use these tools and they become integrated in our clients' businesses, and the people they bring in, they become integrated too. So again, I've highlighted some really key things so that people really understand. We want to know what our client's thinking is here. So first of all, what does GPS stand for, right? And I highlighted that. If we can just take a few minutes with our clients and help them understand that a little deeper, what they do with this can become more powerful. Then, of course, that's the basic format, and then there are rules that we talk about, right? So Diana teaches us, as well as Gary, it all has to fit on a single piece of paper. So if we get a GPS from our client and it's on to 2 pages, our opportunity right there is to say we violated one of the rules. And it probably means there's too much words. It's not simple enough. Diana teaches us leaders simplify, educators complicate. We want to simplify. So going right in here and making sure they know that the number one, it's got to fit on one single piece of paper. Number 2, your real estate members will use the same format. So this is, again, an opportunity. If you're in a market center and let's say you're coaching a TL, right? Well, as the coach of the TL, knowing that we want to affect leadership with that person, we would want to collect a copy of everybody's GPS, right? Let's get a copy of everyone so that we can make sure that the leader's vision of the market center is showing all the way through the 1-3-5s of anybody who can affect that change. Because that's how we help them meet goals. And this is even more imperative. It's not more imperative, it's just as imperative in a real estate team. A lot of times we'll see the leaders being able to do this at a higher level. Maybe their direct reports are doing it at a good level. If the people who are operating with the team are not doing it at the highest level, then it's going to affect the scalability and the growth of the team. So this is a real big opportunity for us, again, go deep, make sure they understand. This is not a task. This is a game changer in your business if used correctly. And if not used correctly, it's going to go on the shelf or go in a file on the computer, and it's going to be occasionally looked at. That's a disservice to our clients. Diana said to us in the training she did last week, which was so amazing, she explained how, and if you've been in her office, you've seen this, the GPS of maps is taped up on her computer. And every day she comes in, she reads that, and once she reads it, she flips it over behind the computer and begins to work. And before she leaves, she flips it back. So that every day she's in alignment with what the GPS is doing. That is the power of what it is. If it just sits in a computer, if it's not up and visible and everybody can see it, then it's not going to have the power it can have. And then number 4, I think we have some misnumbering on that form. It says share it with people or it won't happen, right? Share it with people or it won't happen. So this is, again, an opportunity for us to enforce that rule and say, you share yours with me, you share your team members with me, and transparency, you can share it with them, yours with them, right? You can share yours with your head coach, and that can be part of your planning. Because ideally, as a coach, you have a GPS of where you're going to improve yourself, how you're going to keep your retention up, and of course, how you're going to help grow MAPS with new contracts. I would assume those are your 3 strategies, or those are your 3 priorities, and then you have strategies underneath them that pertain particularly to your role. That's the power, guys, and your head coaches would greatly appreciate seeing that and then being able to roll that up and make sure it's in alignment with one-on-one mastery coaching's GPS, and then roll that up and make sure it's in alignment with MAPS GPS. That's how we become a united team. That's how we hit goals. So again, this is an important part that I believe we don't go deep enough with our clients and miss opportunity. And now if you keep going here, right, it says, what's your GPS goal? So this is the one thing. This is the biggest rock. So think back to the slides that you saw before when we highlighted some of the things off the business plan. Is it that net profit or is it something else? I don't know. What I do know is that this is our opportunity. That is how we know we gave value, because that one thing gets accomplished with our clients. And if it's not accomplished because something went awry, it's never forgotten in our coaching, because that's their goal. And Diana says, as a coach, we win, which means our clients hit goals. The power of clarity right there, understanding that big rock. Is it listings sold? Is it units sold? Is it net profit? Ideally, we all want to get to net profit, yet your client may be at a different level. I don't know. I do know that you're their partner, and you and the client should be in utter alignment of what we're trying to accomplish every day. So that's our big opportunity here to dive in. And then, of course, we go to 2 priorities. And this particular GPS, which is the example we give our clients, breaks down what that would look like for them. Buyer transactions, right? Okay, if they're focused on buyers, they're going to have these strategies. Then we know where their businesses come from. Now, here's a tip, coaches. When we get something like this, and it says buyer transaction closed, right, and then they have strategies like this, I would suggest we go back to their business plan, okay, and make sure that that is all on their business plan and that they had revenue from it last year. And that's the 2017 review part. That's page 1 and 2. Because if they don't, let's, for example, take this one we have in front of us. Let's say last year, their open houses, they didn't get a lot of business from open houses. So they got decent business from their sphere, they got decent internet leads, they got decent signs and flyers, and they got decent business class or buyer classes. They got revenue. So we know that it works somewhat and it's scalable, and we're just going to make some decisions on activities to make sure that scalability happens. But open houses was 0, and now they're using that as 1/5 potentially of their revenue for the year in the buyer division. That's an opportunity for us to go back and say, well, since we weren't as successful, why don't we 1-3 out that specific strategy? So we can get real clear with what we want to hold people accountable to doing in their activities to ensure that that strategy actually comes true. Now, of course, we don't want to do that with everything because that creates too much. Yet there's an opportunity to help them refine a system. Once the system is refined, then we can get the people to operate the system through the activities correctly, and now we have something scalable. And the best thing about clarity of a system is what we learn in the 30-60-90 is the system of accountability. If the system isn't working, then it's always going to become an emotional conversation. If the system is working, then it becomes a, is this the right person conversation, right? And for those of you who have taken 30-60-90, that system of accountability is very clearly written out, and it is in, I believe it's in the section 3 of evaluating talent in the first 90 days. So we can start to link all this together to make it simple, right? Simple for our people. That's what we want to do. So again, you're going to have your priorities. This is all going to fit on one page, and this is going to be part of what we talk about every call. And again, it's really powerful when these are really strong. You're going to see different people on the team potentially being able to have parts of this in their GPS and 411. That's when we know we're scaling. Now, we're coaching a single agent. We're going to make them so strong so that when they bring people in, they bring them under the system, this system, and that way their scalability can happen faster. So when an agent is a high prospector and follows systems and models, they generally attract people who will do that, and so they can scale quickly. When an agent is kind of a sloppy mess a little bit, not following things, it's much more challenging when they bring people on because generally they attract people like themselves, right? And I trust we're all shaking our head that we've known this and we have people that we've dealt with this. So as we go through here, I think that's all we have to cover on this slide, Allison, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So again, how big do you want this to get? 1 page. And as long as we're always on that 1 page, we will be on the right page as a group. And remember, big goal, priorities, and strategies. I put in here the 80-20 principle because generally this is where we start when we're transitioning from this part, the 1 through 5, to the 4-1-1 is where we're really going to want to align with that 80-20 principle of control. And again, this is an opportunity as coaches to make sure we're kind of diving deep with them Otherwise, the possibility is it's a great 135, yet the 411 becomes weak because it's not as in alignment as it can be with this rule, which is it's your 20%, right? I don't know if you guys have clients. I have clients that often, have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. Well, I get that. We all have a lot to do. And it doesn't allow us not to focus on our 20%. Our 20% gets done first, and then we can take care of the rest. When that flips over and people are staying in their 80%, as coaches, we have a lot of challenges. So this is our opportunity, again, when we're starting to help build this with them, that we're saying, are we really clear on your 20%, right? And whether it's administration, whether it's a market center, whether it's team, it doesn't matter. Are we clear? Because when we're not clear with what the 20% is, we often don't hit it. Then we get challenged as coaches. You loop in the wrong conversation. Okay, so go to the next slide, Allison. So hard to do this. I wish we could have more interaction. So in the meeting we were at last week, Diana said this quote, and I thought it was so powerful, right? The 135 is the navigation system to keep us in the right conversation, just as we talked. Look at it daily and use the 411 for the daily activities. If the weekly activities support the monthly activities that support the annual activities, and they get done, then we're in the right direction, and we will hit goal. When the daily activities don't align with the monthly, okay, so this could, for example, look like if we have a goal of 100 listings, and that translates into 8.3 listings a month, which of course, if we took into a 4-month, that would translate into just over 2 a week. If we didn't have the 2 listings a week being measured on the 411, we would be in the wrong conversation potentially. So that's an example of how we want to take this all down and make sure the activities really align with the business plan, which then is the GPS, and this all works. Okay, next slide, Allison. So again, when we look at this, this is the 411 that's in our Google Drive, right? My annual goals, my monthly goals, and of course, we can do business and personal, or sometimes they just want to do the business. There's a couple of different formats. It is important as coaches that we understand we do not want just business goals. So we can have business be the focus, of course, because that's what we're here for, yet we want to know what they personally want to achieve, right? What is it personally going on with them that they are looking to achieve? And the reason that is important, as we learn in the one thing, is, it does go back to the big why that we talk about, yet it also goes into many other areas. If people are happy because they're growing in their personal life to the goals that they want, they will generally do more in business to keep that in alignment, right? If their personal world is not giving that fulfilling time, giving them that life worth living, and then we have business struggles, like, for example, a shift coming, then we can quickly see that they start to really push back on their business activity. So this is why it's important to have both. Then you're measuring what's really going on in the client's whole world, because we coach to the whole person. So be very mindful to get some of those personals and make sure that we're checking in on those as well. So again, they broke down the 411 and the elements of that, right? So the annual goal, which we've talked a lot about, and then you're going to identify off your 135 what are those it says 5 to 7 goals. We would be fine if they just had the 3 top ones, or they want to add in a few of those strategies. Then the monthly goal, right? We break it into monthly increments. Now, this is a really important place. We're going to stop for a second. When we don't hit the weekly goals, remember, we want to make sure that we aren't just going through the motions with this. This is not a going through the motions thing. So if we are not hitting the weekly goals, and in essence, let's say our 15 protocols did not work, and now we are off goal. When you get the 411 for the next month, the monthly goals will be adjusted. They will be adjusted. If they have the same goals and they're behind one goal, they won't hit the one thing. They won't hit the annual goal. And that's on us as coaches to make sure we're noticing those things as they change. And we get into the conversation, are we changing the goal? Are we changing the activities? Now, Diana teaches us we don't change goals. That's provided we did the goal digging down really well in the beginning, then that would be the case. If we didn't, there may have to be some type of goal adjustment. You want to be real careful as coaches not to tolerate that monthly goal not getting adjusted based on real results. That's when we can get some snowball effect into the wrong area. And that also really discounts the value of the tool. Is the minute the client sees that that's not happening, then they don't feel the tool is valuable, and often then they will struggle with keeping it close and keeping it real. So that's a mishap that we really want to be careful for with that. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Of course, again, you know, what activities must I do this month that will help me stay on track with my big rocks? As a coach, you really want to dive into making sure you know what that is, the activities. Now, we're going to do a little fun thing next where, well, I'm not going to tell you, so we're going to go to slides. But it's important, and again, that you're looking at the GPS and that the main goal is here, that the monthly goals match the GPS and have been adjusted, right? So if the GPS starts January 1st, we're going to make sure that those January goals were hit so we can make adjustments to our February monthly goals if necessary, or if not. If we're front-loading the year and we did great through winterizing ourselves in our businesses, then we wouldn't need to make any adjustments. Just be careful not to let that happen early in the year because, again, it discounts the value of the tools. So we can go to the next slide. By the way, do we have any questions, Allison? I think I see.
We have had one question. So the question from Mika is, my understanding from John Davis's presentation was that the goal would be hit by any of the three priorities, not all three combined. Please clarify.
Can you read it again? Because I was looking for the question.
Yeah, it says, my understanding from John Davis's presentation was that the goal would be hit by any of the three priorities, not all three combined. Please clarify.
That's excellent. Excellent catch. So the way that we would really dive into this is that first priority. If that first priority hit goal, then we could hit the goal. Now, we have to meet the client where we are, Mika. So the goal is to say if they're that clear and that good at their activity hitting and the clarity of the goals, then really one of those priorities getting hits the goal. The challenge with that and operating 100% like that is the people that aren't quite doing that yet, right? So if they've never worked with a GPS, or let's say they've worked with a GPS and it failed, then we're going to have to make sure that those priorities are in alignment for that goal and work on those. If they've worked very well under a GPS and have been successful, then your point is absolutely right. So we're looking at this from a coaching perspective of meeting the client where we are and identifying if we're in total alignment and operating at the highest level with the tool, yes, one priority will hit the goal. So I trust that clarifies. All right, so again, here's one of the elements here. We already talked about this. I added here, cross off what was done and move forward what was not done. That is also one of the key elements to a 411, is that you will sometimes see, especially when you get a new client who hasn't worked with the 411 tool, sometimes they'll send it to you and all the weeks will be filled out. Well, we know that's not how that works, right? So that's an indication we go deep on a conversation with them of the value of the weekly activity. Then the other mistake that often happens is that people don't cross off what is accomplished and move forward what is not. Okay? So, this may sound very simple, yet when we looked through some of the clients that we've lost and did some customer service things with them and reviewed things, those were the kind of things that we found. They just weren't utilizing the tool the way it was intended, and so therefore we were missing the mark. The client wasn't hitting the goals, they didn't see the value, and decided not to stay with us. So clarity here is crossing off what's done and moving forward what was not. And you can do that very quickly, right? If our clients are sending us their 411, then we should be able to see that every week and address anything that is needing to be addressed on our coaching call with them. That's our opportunity there. And then, of course, this translates into time blocking. Most of the time, our clients are going to say they couldn't get it done because they didn't time block. So the idea is if we didn't time block correctly, our next opportunity as coaches is to really dive into their calendar. And again, this is sometimes a missed opportunity from a coach. When a client is understanding the tools at the highest level, the next thing to look at after a 411, if we're struggling in any way of hitting those goals, is the calendar. And making sure that the calendar has the appropriate time blocked for what they've committed to on their weekly activity. And this is, honestly, coaches, we could go way deep in this conversation alone with many, many, many of our clients. Because if we can help them understand how to operate off of the calendar and how to make sure the calendar reflects their top 20%, we're changing lives at that point. And they're doing it with their team members, which is the snowball effect, and we really are affecting a lot of people, which is really the purpose of what we're doing this all for. So again, this is one of those places that there's an opportunity for us to go deeper. If we're struggling with the calendar and time blocking, we're going to go deeper on that. Right? Is it purposeful enough? Do they understand what the purpose of everything that's on there is? Do other people control their calendar? And do those people know what the purpose of things are? That's a mistake we see a lot when, with recruiting and in market centers. Somebody might be able to put recruiting appointments in and not understand the value of having the time to prepare for that or any of that being in the calendar as well. So these are all opportunities for us to go much deeper on the 411 with our clients and really make it purposeful, right? Time is controllable 100%. Oftentimes, our clients want to fight us on that. And as coaches, we just go back to making it simple. It is simple. People operate in schedules all the time, and the better they operate in schedules, the bigger they become, which is just a huge opportunity for us to dive deep. Okay, we can go to the next one. And do we have any questions?
I do not see any right now. Just a reminder, everyone, if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, just please type them into that questions box, and we'll get to them when we have these little question breaks. Thank you.
Thank you. And then this one again. So we want to help our clients cultivate habits of success. And sometimes when they have trouble following a schedule, it really comes down to they don't know how to protect their time, right? I mean, people get into real estate because they want they want the freedom of a schedule, and yet we all know that's the kiss of death. The more scheduled you are, the more successful you are. So this is another opportunity to say, what is the habit of protecting their time? How good are they at that? If they're not good at protecting their time, they're not going to be good at following their schedule, because people will get them off schedule. Then if they're not good at following their schedule, they're not going to be hitting their weekly goals. And if they're not hitting their weekly goals, we're not going to be hitting our monthly goals. And if we're not hitting our monthly goals, we're not going to hit our annual goals. So I really wanted the goal for our thing tonight, is our webinar tonight, it was to really connect the dots. That sometimes the success of a GPS is because our people have really good habits. And most of the time, the failure of the GPS is because they don't. And that's true for prospecting, script practice, all of the things we know that Diana teaches us that are most important for our clients. So really diving into where are they mentally in this to be able to really change their life, right? To have a career worth having. That's the power of the GPS and the 135. I'm sorry, the GPS and the 411. And remember, we're teaching people how to think, and we're growing leaders. We're developing people to lead bigger and better than they did when they didn't work with us. So these little things are so imperative for us to really work on. Cultivate the habits of success and lean on our tools. Lean heavily on our tools. The one thing is a great, I mean, if we have our people challenged in their calendars and their habits, get them on the one thing. Ask them, what have you learned? What are we going to incorporate? What do you want me to help hold you accountable to? These are all the things that give us opportunities to make a big difference. And when we stay in those conversations, which are the right conversations, their businesses are moving forward. So when new tools come from the company, it's much easier to adapt. They can go faster, right? Diana teaches us alignment. It's very challenging to drive a car that's out of alignment. You can't go fast. Yet when things get in alignment from all the way from your GPS to your habits, the more that is all aligned, the faster the client can go, right? And then when we're talking gradually, then suddenly, it's gradually we worked really hard on our habits. Suddenly, you had the best year you've ever had, and you're now on to thinking about different things, bigger things, right? We always challenge our clients, are you thinking big enough? This is what Gary founded everything on. So what Diana teaches us, as coaches, are we thinking big enough? Who in your schedule do you want to put in the top 10 in the company, or the top 10 market centers in the company? Who do you have to develop as a coach in order to do that with your partner? Are we thinking big enough? Very, very key piece to this, because our failures are in our thoughts, and our thoughts aren't thinking big enough, so therefore we're affecting our clients. And that's a challenge, and we know that based on our retention. So really dive into what we've learned here and really take it to the next level. We can go to the next slide, Allison. You know, one of the most important things is that what we just learned and walked through helps our people go from you to they. And that's the essence of what we want our clients to do, right? First you do it, then we do it, and we has to do with the GPS and the 411. Then they do it, and now we scale and we go big. So Allison, can I ask you a couple questions about what you did with at the event last week?
Of course.
Okay. So you were on a panel and you were talking about your GPSs and the different divisions within MAPS. How do you guys work on the alignment of all of that?
So for the Coach Care team, each team does their own. We have within MAPS, we have our operational team does one, our client care team, Coach Care, Bold, and Group. And then that flows up to the main MAPS one to GPS. So for Coach Care, what we did was each person actually came up with and made their own, an outline of their own GPS. And then when we met, we kind of went through each one. That helped us make our overall one-on-one coaching GPS, and it also helped us figure out where we were in alignment and where we needed to improve and maybe get on the same page. So for our team, that was huge.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us an example of how doing that exercise might have shown there was a misalignment and that you were able to get back in alignment? Do you have an example of that?
I'm thinking of one thing. I know the number of trainings we had. I think one person was suggesting something else or thinking can't remember the specifics. However, I know one person did not believe we were having those trainings, and that we know that was definitely something that we wanted on the GPS. So we were able to just make sure everyone was aware of that specific instance of, yes, these trainings are happening, and it got us all on the same page, and it got us communicating more in that moment, and it showed us the need of communication and just how important that is throughout all the time.
Yeah. And in the Coach Care team, you guys have grown, what, 4 additional people this year?
Correct.
Okay. So how did the GPS help get your team members in alignment?
So for this year, it's just something that we looked at every day. I mean, we keep that on our walls, on our cubicle walls, and we review it at least every week to make sure that everything we're doing is flowing up to what we stated in that GPS, and that each team member's 411 flows up into what our goals are as well.
And then those are the things that you talk about when you meet with the people that, for example, you report to Ron, so you meet with Ron on your 411, and those are all topics within there, correct?
Correct.
And then you do that with some people on the team now.
Correct. And then I bring that into Ron, so we can we're closing the loop.
Closing the loop, that's excellent. And again, what's really great about that is, like, for example, training was a big one on our GPS this year. And Allison, you've been here longer than I have. Did we have the most amount of trainings we've ever had this year?
Yes. We actually doubled.
Doubled the amount of training. And in a much more leveraged way, because more than one person does trainings now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So coaches, that's an example of a powerful movement from a GPS all the way to the 411 to the effects actually happening. So Allison, anything else you want to share with the coaches on the use of the 411 and GPS?
Just one thing that Dennis mentioned in that panel is that when looking at new hires, she always looks at that individual and how they can contribute to the overall GPS, making sure that each hire is intentional, that every single item on every job description is intentional and goes towards that GPS.
I love that. So the power of the tools go all the way into the career visioning process. And as coaches, if our tools aren't strong enough in their business already, just recognize the chances of their hire getting them and being strong on them is going to diminish. So again, this is why we really want to grow our people, so that when they're in the U, they're doing them at a very high level. And when they get to the we, it's not about them having to train all over again. It's just following the model and adding variables to things, right? Making sure their GPS is clear, their 411 is clear, and their calendar is clear. That gets them to the they much more quickly, much more quickly. Okay, and then just the last few slides, Allison. I think we just have 2 more slides. Again, we're going to always bring them back to the CGI and the growth initiative. These are the tools that we want to deepen and deepen and deepen. So as you're looking at GPSs and 411s, and if you are going into calendars, you know, one of the challenges I hear often is the pipeline tool isn't getting updated. Well, then I would probably venture out to say that it's not in the calendar of updating the pipeline tool, right? Just like we're all in a contest right now for getting our referrals or bringing people into MAPS. If it's not on our schedule, chances are it does not exist. Diana teaches us that. So just be mindful, bring them back to the tools and what tool is going to help you the most with their GPS, and how do we translate that into the 411 so that we can inspect what we expect and know that it's getting done. And then the last one, Allison. And again, just team culture. We've all been working on team culture in MAPS. KWRI is doing it, all the market centers, all of our agents. This is the time to really dig on our team culture. And clarity of goals, we know what that is. Clarity of standards, again, the system of accountability in the leverage series is phenomenal. Clarity on daily activities, and then clarity what to do when you're not on goal, which we learned off the 15th protocol. And remember that to be pre-written. And then culture of prospecting, culture of hitting goal, transparency on the numbers. When we help our people grow under that culture, they build legacies worth leaving. And when we don't really challenge them to grow through the tools, we risk their legacy consciously as a coach, and that's not a good partner. So that was what we had to cover this evening. Allison, do we have any questions that you guys all have?
I do see one new one.
Okay, great.
So it says, should the main goal be units, GCI, or profit?
Okay, that's a great question. And again, we're going to meet the client where they are. We know that keeping the end in mind, it is profit. We are keeping the end in mind. However, if we have a client who is very far from that, we don't want to put them in a space of not feeling that they can be moving forward. So we may move it to GCI and work towards profit. We may need to move it to units. I mean, if there's someone that they're not or have not ever hit unit goals, then we may start there. We're just going to dive in with our client and meet them where they are and create the gap to the next thing. So for example, if you, let's say you did do units, then you're going to want to make sure that in one of those priorities is some type of GCI number, right? So we're working towards something, and that we're discussing when we will get to profit and what is our plan, what is our action plan to get there and by when. So for example, this year we may be focused on units. And you know, at the 6-month mark, we're going to see and measure our GCI goal, and provided they're there, the rest of the year we're going to work on getting to a profit goal. And in order to do that, first quarter we have to hit goal of units. Second quarter we have to really start analyzing and duplicate that cycle. Then we're going to be able to identify the GCI. And then in third quarter, we're going to get a bookkeeper who's going to help us put the chart of accounts according to the MREA, and in fourth quarter, we're going to measure profit. So now we have an actionable plan to get us to the ultimate goal. But you start where the end, you start where the client is. We meet them where they're at. So I trust that answers that question. Any other questions, Allison?
I do not see any at this time.
Okay, well, We're 5 minutes early, and I'm certain that you all could afford the gift of a little bit of time. If we have no other questions, I appreciate, again, the power of you being here. It means a lot. And please, if I ask anything of you, please filter this through your fellow coaches. Have them watch it. Your role play partners, ask them if they've watched these. And if they haven't, show them where they can get them, and then have a conversation about it. That's how we raise the lid of our team, is that team members hold team members accountable. So please make sure that you filter that through. And again, I appreciate your time. Anything else, Allison?
That is it. Have a great evening, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.